I was so excited to get my shipment from Last Bottle Wines in the mail the other day, full of incredible red wines, all from Napa Valley. I love wine tasting, so having this to my door couldn't be happier. Also, couldn't be more excited that today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you don't know already, they're a Napa-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one handpicked wine per day until it sells out, and they're always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part is that there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase. And I could not be more excited to bring this offer right now because they're having a marathon sale, which is coming up March 28th and 29th. Even better, we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. So if you are a wine lover like me, this is a great time to join. And did I mention that shipping is 100% free? So what are you waiting for? Mark your calendar for March 28th and 29th, or get on it earlier if you want. You can sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine. We are so thrilled to be partnering with Hinge. Hinge is the dating app designed to be deleted. As you all know, I'm a huge Hinge advocate as I met my partner of almost 3 years on the app. Even before meeting him, Hinge was always my go-to app because I met more relationship-minded people here and had some great dates. Clearly, I haven't been on the app for a little while, but I re-downloaded it to check out some of the new features. One that stood out to me was the voice prompt, my best friend's take on why you should date me, where your friend can hype you up. Not only does this make the profile creation less daunting, but it's not always easy to see your own green flags. So to test it out, I asked Yue some fun prompts to get her take on what I could put if I was dating again. So the first one, how long have we known each other? What was your first impression of me and how has that changed?
Julie and I have known each other for almost 10 years. My first impression of Julie was that she's very social, but I've learned that she has a lot more depth to her beyond the social butterfly that she is.
My next prompt, what do you think are my green flags?
I would say she's deeply loyal. She believes in love, curious mindset, and she is fearlessly ambitious.
And then last but not least, what kind of friend am I?
Julie is the kind of friend who will always have your back, no matter what.
Damn, that feels nice to hear. So download Hinge and try voice prompts today. Then find someone worth deleting the app for.
The Dateable podcast features real stories from real people of how they make modern dating work, or not. Each episode will not only offer you a new perspective on dating, but will also change the way you date. I'm your host, Yue, former dating coach turned dating sociologist. You'll also hear commentary from my producer, Julie Krafchick, and other surprise co-hosts.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating. I want to talk about timing because we always ask this question, is it the right person or is it the right time? So we have a very special guest here with us. Her name's Jenna Birch. She wrote a book called The Love Gap. Do you want to say hi before we introduce who you are?
I'm so thrilled to be here. This is going to be really fun.
But before I give a little introduction about you, I just want to say, I've talked about this before. When I'm walking down the street, I don't see or hear anything. I'm just in my own little world. I'm just very much of a daydreamer. And Julie experienced this the other day.
Yes, I did.
When I was walking down the street, I was listening to my music. I was on my way to a bar class. And I get a text from her and she's like, you literally just passed me on the street and I was screaming your name. Is that what happened, Julie?
Yes, and then I just gave up.
So what I'm getting at with this is that one, don't be offended if you call my name on the street and I don't respond to you. Mm-hmm. But two is I often think about this, right? If I was looking for a Julie-like person on the street when I'm walking, I might have seen her. But because I wasn't in that mindset of looking, even she passed me, even if maybe we even made eye contact, I still didn't see her. Mm-hmm. And it really made me think of this $1 million question.
Yes.
Is it finding the right person or is it the right time?
Yeah.
Let's just get right into it. So Jenna, she is 26 years old, originally from a small town Youngstown, Michigan, currently lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and she is in a monogamous relationship. She is the author of The Love Gap, a research-based guide to navigating the newest dating phenomenon, the love gap, which she defines as a reason why men don't always pursue the women they claim to want. She's also a longtime health and lifestyle journalist. Her work has appeared in print and online publications, including Cosmo, Self, Marie Claire, Psychology Today, The Huffington Post, Man Repeller, and Yahoo, among many others. So Jenna, what inspired you? First of all, you're 26, are you sure?
I'm so blown away right now.
I know. Well, I always tell people I'm like a 45-year-old trapped in a 26-year-old's body.
I read the book and I was not expecting 26. So.
If someone told me you should take advice from a 26-year-old, I would have been like, get the fuck out. But I am so into what you're saying here. The love gap, I believe in it. So what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah. So I've always been sort of, I guess, fascinated by the things that I don't fully understand about dating. And a lot of that has to do with research that I encounter and then real life phenomena. And I'm very interested in things like, do we always choose the things we claim to want? I think that that's something that I was really inspired by, especially after in 2015, there was like several pieces of research that came out, and a lot of women's magazines had really publicized them pretty heavily. And it just like wasn't ringing true deep down in terms of the things that I was seeing in real life. So I explored those things. And the essence of it is, you know, do men always choose these smart, successful, like brilliant modern day women they claim to want? Because all of those friends that I had and all of the people that I would encounter, like a lot of them did not fit this mold of, you know, those were the ones that seemed to have these big problems all the time. And they had all of the rest of their life together except like this one thing. Right. They couldn't like figure out how to navigate it.
That's like all my girlfriends. Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. And they're like really driven in every other area. Yeah. And they think like, if there's a way, I'll find it. And that's the beautiful part of dating, is that you think in the beginning that you can like conquer it.
Yeah.
Like I'll figure it out and I will find the shortcut to get what I want. And the answer, it's not that way.
So were you finding that men were like saying those characteristics of what they were looking for? Or what were they saying they wanted?
I mean, the funny thing was, in reality, it just didn't kind of match up in terms of like, why are all these women single if they're like the modern day dream girl? So I would go out and kind of explore, and I figured, you know, I'm just going to start throwing the question out there to men. And I swear I was like really casual. I was just like, well, like, what are you looking for? Like kind of like run at it from that way. And they all listed the same exact things, like smart, successful, ambitious, like independent, like all this stuff that, you know, they're supposed to say.
Yeah.
That's the very PC thing to do. And I was like, okay, so I just like tallied all this information. But when you really start digging with them and you really start actually like taking apart what they actually choose and the patterns that they had in real life, like it didn't add up. And they didn't even realize it, I don't think. Like, why am I not choosing the things that I think I want? And why am I pushing certain people away? Like they would have all of these like very interesting coping mechanisms for a lot of the gender dynamics and the shifts that we've seen in our culture. And there's this idea with the dating apps too, that there are so many infinite options that you can find the person that makes you feel perfectly comfortable. Right. Like there's like the Goldilocks effect for dating.
Right.
Like not too ambitious, just ambitious enough, you know, not too smart, just smart enough, all that.
So as someone that also does research, I'm very interested in your methodology. Like how did you find these people? What did you ask them? All of that.
Yeah. So it was really interesting because I had to get like a certain subset. It was definitely like career-oriented men and women. They were not like the types to go to the suburbs and kind of settle down. So I tapped like all my different populations like around the country in major metropolitan areas and had them kind of, you know, send out a call to like people that they knew or people that they thought really fit the bill. And I really wanted to get like a pretty good lay of the land for the United States and get those different metropolitan areas. Those are where, you know, I saw a lot of these same issues, whether it's like close to a college town or like, you know, an actual big city like SF or NYC. But I really used it by like third and fourth degree connections almost. And the word got out. Like I had way more interviews than I could have ever conducted.
People love talking about their dating woes.
People were so
Season
into that.
8, here we are.
And it was kind of like they thought like, I'll get like a free like coaching session or feedback. I'm like, that's not really what I do, kind of. But, you know, we had a really informal, and I think that was the beautiful part of it, is because I was really approaching it from like a research-based, but also like an advice-based perspective, trying to find out things. It was much more of an interactive, like conversational interview that was really great, and that I got to know them all on such a personal level.
So how many people did you end up talking to?
It was around 120 formal interviews in the end.
That's a lot of interviews.
It was a lot
of talking.
You know,
Yeah.
my schedule was owned by like everyone else.
Because I feel like in normal like user research and like tech companies, you really only need to talk to like 5 people before you start seeing patterns. So 120, that's like decent amount.
Well, the thing with
sure.
daters that we've seen is that everybody thinks their situation is unique.
Right.
They're going through something totally different.
Yep.
Maybe it's a city they're in or the pedigree that they have, and they have all these issues. But then I'm sure you saw all the patterns across the board.
Totally.
So what is the love gap?
Yeah, the essence of it is why men don't choose the women they claim to want. And that was kind of the thesis in the front from which I explored and really dove into like some of the bigger phenomena. But the love gap is, I think we see it all the time. And the essence of it is timing. And I think that was something that was never fully explored when I kind of came of age in the relationship advice world. I would always hear and see, especially in like the he's just not that into you mentality, that if he was interested enough, like he'll come to you.
Right, like love will conquer.
Yeah, love will conquer.
Yep.
And that's like what my mom and grandma used to tell me. Like, you know, if it's the right person, like everything will just work out in this magical fairy tale. And that's super not millennial. And it's not very, it's just not how things happen. Like I found out through a lot of the people that I interviewed that the right person could have like smacked them in the face and they would have never known because
like running into Julie on the street.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. It was very much that effect.
So you have this notion of this end goal woman in your book. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah. So I think the best part of the end goal woman is it is like an archetype, like the other men in my book. And there are a lot of different end goals for different types of people. But for a specific guy, especially, it was that person that he like really did want, like the person that he actively knew he wanted, or maybe like the most aspirational woman that he could possibly think of. And a lot of them were the smart, successful, ambitious, like super independent, like modern day dream girls. It's what they said very often, but they often didn't feel that they were in the place to maintain a relationship that they felt were going to be like this big thing, like a long-term thing.
So until they get to the end goal woman, are they in this like interim goal woman?
Yeah.
Layover woman?
Or like getting their shit in order? Like what are they doing in this
Have
time?
I been that layover woman a few times? Probably.
I think we all have been in a certain degree. I think that everybody's end goal is like slightly different. And that's like the crazy thing, but that they can't actually maintain the relationship that they actually want with this person. And I think when they see it potentially being long-term, or they realize that that's what you want and expect, and it would naturally go in that direction, that's when I started seeing like men had all different kinds of ways to throw barriers up.
Oh, so you're saying even if they met their end goal woman,
yeah, it wouldn't
if
even
they're
matter
not
then.
ready for her, it's not going anywhere.
And this has been the
it's not going
existential debate, right? Is
Yeah.
like, is the I'm not ready
Yeah.
a cop-out, or is it actually true?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hear this from my guy friends a lot. They would say, dating this girl, she's great. She's everything I thought I wanted, but something is missing. So you're saying that something missing is not necessarily on the woman's part,
No.
but from them, the men.
Sometimes it can be. And I think the interesting part to realize in terms of the thing that is missing, I think that we all have to gather like enough data in this massive like playing field right now to know actually that we're sure of what we want and that we're sure that we can make that like major commitment. And so that's why you see a lot of this delay in commitment. It's not just like careers taking place, but also there is this big epic playing field that we all have to go experience to be sure of what we want. And also feel like we're in the place to maintain something that is more serious. It could be the right person in the wrong time. And that is something that I was never really told that message, but I saw that so often. And in my book, there's one chapter that highlights like all these couples of the one who took like forever to commit. and that's like everyone said to walk away.
Too, yeah.
All of them are married now. And that's not everybody's goal, but they were all at least like in a very long-term relationship, like 5+ years where they'd finally gotten together and made it work. Even though at the beginning they didn't really know that they could do that. And they often like pushed the person away or broke up with them sometimes like completely. It's very interesting because I think that we'll see a lot more longer timelines to commitment and a lot more broken timelines. People from your past may come back.
Well,
It's
there's
just not
some
linear
stat
either.
I
No.
read that was like 50% of couples break up at least once.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's actually way more than you would think. I think
That
you
is
think like it will just
So break
go...
up once before they get back together. you
Yes,
mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
So these couple stories that met, whatever it was didn't work out. Years later, whatever time frame they get back together, what were some of the reasons why they couldn't move forward at that stage of life?
Those barriers.
Yeah. One of them had a lot of baggage from childhood, really, and like didn't even really know how to articulate love. And so that was one of the reasons why I don't think he was able to commit for such a long time. There's one that really felt like he had to start his career and he felt like it was too serious. Like he couldn't manage both. And I mean, oftentimes, even when our career's in flux or we go through these different transitional periods, like we really don't feel like we can give, energy to both facets of our lives. And that's something that people downplay. It's just, they're both really big things.
It's interesting because I feel like women have no I don't know. I mean, not all women, but I feel like a lot of times women can, maybe women can multitask better.
Yeah.
But I feel like if a woman had a snafu of her career come up and had met this amazing guy, she wouldn't necessarily let him go.
Yeah.
Or I see time after time men not reacting the same way.
But do you think we're being socialized where we think if a woman is sort of unclear about her career path, men wouldn't judge us as much?
Yeah.
As opposed to a man who's like in flux and
or men feeling like they have to provide and they feel like they won't be able to like live up to this stereotype.
What I found was like no matter how woke you think you are, there's still such these ingrained like gender roles that people would feel anxiety about, but not even really be able to articulate it for like quite a while until they really dug into it and were like, I really did feel like I needed to be a breadwinner. I needed to make a certain amount of money, or I needed to like, know where I was headed for the next 5 years. I think that especially with men, like that even there's recent research that shows that is still the pressure that we place on men is having like career in order and ambition and financial stability. Like those are still the two major pressures, whereas women feel more pressure around attractiveness. It's such base level things that we still as society put too much pressure on.
It's hard to unravel and untangle and unlearn all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of ways for women, like their gender role is much more fluid. And I think like we've had things open up to us at a faster rate than men, just in terms of like we're trying to move up and traverse like that way and have a mix of masculine and feminine quote unquote goals. And men still don't have the same access to that like more emotional soft side realm. And I saw that a lot. And men would articulate that to me. And it was like very apparent like how little they told their partners about the things that they were actually feeling.
They were afraid of what their partners would think?
Yeah. Oftentimes they would talk about their partner like, I don't want them to know that.
Okay. That makes sense too why some people break it off or slow things down. Because I think sometimes as a woman when this has happened, because I've personally been there before when this has happened, and it's like you're thinking in your head, you're like, why can't this person just work with me?
Right.
Like
exactly.
why are they like pushing me away when things are getting hard? And you're basically saying they kind of want to shield the women in a way?
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. If they're struggling with it and they're also having anxiety about it, they don't want to bring that and put that on a partner. I still feel like they don't have the same, they're not able to depend in the way that I think women do. And I've been reading some things on, like, I just saw a story on Psychology Today come up about that. Like, why can't men be as dependent, like, as women in, like, their, low moments?
Right.
It's still not the same access that we're providing men. And that was something that, like, I didn't really think about going into this. Like, what would their emotional space be? Why would they do these things?
It's the lone wolf phenomenon with men. Is that women grow up with communities and we create communities and we talk to our girlfriends, and men don't. They feel like they have to fix everything on their own. Yeah. As opposed to as a team or as a community. And it's a lot of pressure.
Right. So you're saying it's not just shielding, it's just more of the emotional capacity to work with a partner.
Yeah, I think it's a mix. And the emotional capacity too, sometimes like they don't know how to articulate. Like women have been taught, like in our social circles and from the games we play from the time we're children to the way that we relate to other women, we've been taught to articulate our emotions from the time we are young. Yeah. Men have not been taught that same thing. I love the study that they did about like even the emotional language that like fathers use with their daughters versus like the achievement-based language that fathers use with their sons. Like, I'm proud of you and you did like so great, like accomplishment-based. And like women, they're like more with their daughters. They're much more like, here's like a full range of emotional spectrum. They treat them differently. And I don't even think we realize this in a lot of ways. So as a culture, like I want to keep having these discussions so that people can understand, like no matter how far you've come and intellectually you understand that you can be like many things in a mix of masculine and feminine, we still don't always afford that to people on an individual level.
Or people just don't like tap into that because they've been subconsciously brought up a certain way.
Socialized.
You got to bring something from the back to the forefront of your mind.
So I guess like out of like all the reasons why men weren't ready for this angle, women, what were like the top ones that you saw through your interviews?
So definitely like career was one. I also think that there was a lot of social pressure sometimes to date around, which was like, not everyone is cut out for that and not everyone wants to do that, but there is a lot of pressure early on to be like, did you sample the field? Are you sure you're ready? Like there's that social pressure in groups and that pack mentality too, especially like if most of your friends are single. Like that's another component that can sort of crowd that space.
Like fear of missing out.
Yeah, FOMO is a big one. Even the fear of FOMO is another one. Like, is my FOMO going to develop later because I didn't date when I was young?
I don't even want to feel the FOMO.
Yeah, I don't even want to put myself in that position that I didn't feel the FOMO. And also like transition was a big one. So if they thought that they were going to move or they thought they were going to change career paths, like go back to school, like whatever it was.
Transitional
stage.
Yeah.
Millennials are very transitional, like as a generation. So it's just millennials and even to some extent like the younger Gen X too. I think that they've been taught to explore a little bit and sometimes things don't settle out until like the 30s. And so that's a barrier to commitment for a lot of people.
So how do you know when someone's ready to settle?
I think that like the biggest thing I learned is like people will tell you who they are. And that's something we do, the great selective listening, that we hear what we want to hear. Someone lists 5 things about themselves. 4 of them are red flags. And then 1 of them is good, but we listen to the one that's good. Like, I want this to work out. You know that somebody's ready when they're like very consistent with you. I think that was like one of the major things that I saw. Like people that are really interested in a relationship with you are not going to give you reasons to doubt. They're forthcoming and honest. Like they're not evasive. They're not dropping off the map for long periods of time, which is like very common in the dating scene. Somebody that's concerned for your feelings is like going to be much different. And even with those external criteria too, I think it's really important that you take a look at someone's life if they are exhibiting symptoms of being really inconsistent and be like, are they in transition? Are they dating around? Do I have signs that they're doing that? Like a lot of times people will have signs, like they'll see them active on like their online dating profile or, you know, kind of like rationalize it. A lot of us do, but like look at the signs that they're like in transition, that they're not ready to settle down and like really, really pay attention. Like people will tell you who they are.
So I liked as a researcher that you pulled out Maslow's hierarchy of needs, pulling out the psych here. Could you kind of go a little deeper into that and like how you view men and women navigating that?
Yeah, I think that that's what we go back to talking about is women they're better multitaskers in general. So I see women like very much able to like fulfill a lot of needs at once and work on different segments of their life at one time. Whereas men, and this is something Helen Fisher kind of discusses in her idea of like men are linear thinkers and women are web thinkers. Yeah. Women kind of bounce around and men do one step at a time. So like if you've ever noticed, it's kind of a joke I have with my boyfriend. Like if I text him like 3 things, he will respond to the last one only.
Oh yeah.
It's like one at a time. So I have to get one answer and then go to the next answer or just completely you lose it. But you see that with a lot of men in their patterns. Like they focus on one area at a time. So oftentimes like career they've been taught like comes before, you know, say finding a relationship. Like you don't put the cart before the horse. So they will work on that often. And before that it's school. So it's like one step at a time. So if they're like really active in one realm, I found oftentimes that they weren't really looking for a relationship in the same way. And that would be external criteria. Like, you know, they were really like busy in school or they were trying to change careers or they were traveling a bunch or like whatever it was. There's so many different facets of the hierarchy that it makes sense that the sexes are a little bit different, even in the way that we're socialized. I think that women have also been given more access to just like explore more realms at different times, whereas like men seem to attack things in a more linear manner.
You know what I find with myself is that when I'm with a partner that I feel empowered by, then I feel more empowered in my career. Like I feel like I could do more in my career because I'm with someone who like really supports me. Yeah. But it's the opposite for men is that they need to get their career shit together before they can fully give to someone else.
Yeah. Or they really definitely have to grow to the place where they understand that there's going to be ebb and flow in that place. Like, you know, they have to have the perception that career is going to go through its ups and downs, and sometimes it'll be a shit show and other times it'll be great. But, you know, they have to like learn that understanding, where I think women more intuitively understand that they're going to be ebbs and flows. But like really that's the sign of like the best partner for these modern day people, or that people that help you grow, people that make you feel like more.
So I remember on Sex and the City, there was like the taxi light theory. So it's like when a man is ready, he's on. Yep. Now that would probably be like the Uber theory or something. So I guess like if men do meet this woman, this end goal woman, and they are not ready, what were you finding that they were doing in these situations?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it was distancing or disappearing or breaking up. So I kind of described it in like 3 different ways. Some men would kind of like, you know, they would do a soft approach and they'd kind of stay in the orbit, but they wouldn't actually like dive in and pursue somebody like that. If they met like someone that they were really interested in, it would be those people that everyone would think you have something going on, but like they weren't really making a move, and no, you didn't know what was going on. So like we've all had those.
So complicated, because I would just think they weren't into me.
Yeah, no.
Not that I was the end goal that they were like not ready for.
Yeah, no, it's really funny. Sometimes they're like, I'm gonna push play when I'm ready.
So like, you had men that were actively like, I met this great girl, I'm not ready, so I'm gonna stay in her life, but I'm not gonna go full force and be her boyfriend.
Yeah, and what's funny is like the minute I put those galleys out into the world, like I went to my literary agent's office, and one of the agents there was like, oh my God, I'm always an almost boyfriend. He's like, I didn't even realize I was doing that, but like that's like exclusively my strategy, is like I'm like one day one of these is going to pan out when like I'm ready.
Oh my God.
And it was really funny because like that is just almost like it's like this very optimistic theory, but like I'm going to push play when I'm ready, but I'm not going to screw it up now. I'm going to wait. So yeah, that would happen very often. Some of them, their strategy was just, I'm going to disappear. I'm going to cut it off, break it off, or just like actually ghost. That would happen sometimes.
Even if they were crazy about the girl.
Sometimes, yeah, they'd be like, this is not my moment. One of my favorite stories is about this guy who broke up with his college sweetheart, who he knew was the one the whole time. And he's like, damn it, like, I know she's the one. Like, and he was very clear. It was actually, so this was not backstory put in the book, but they're actually 2 best friends from the same college. And they're still together with their long-term partners to this day.
Wow.
But they broke up for like 4 to 5 years in the middle because like these 2 guys thought they had to go start their career. And they knew like the whole time, and they both like made a joint pact. They're like, we're going to make these phone calls and we're going to get back in touch like years later when they were talking about it. And it's really bizarre because you're like, that sounds so crazy, but these things were actual real stories that people did. And one of them is married and one of them has been together in long-term partnership for many years.
Weren't they afraid that like they would meet someone else or like get off the market? Like that's what I would think.
I think that probably would happen too. You could get in other relationships, but you just like assume it's a boomerang. They would just come back.
Yeah. And that's what's funny. Like sometimes they did have long-term relationships even in the middle there, but they're like, like I remember one of the guys that I talked to, he's like, I did have a long-term relationship. But in the back of his mind, he's like, it did not compare to this one person. And I always knew that. I think that they kind of have in the back of their mind, I'm going to screw it up now. So I'd rather like not do something, hurt the person, and then like completely like ruin everything for them, sour the whole relationship.
So did you see any examples of someone sabotaging a relationship because they weren't ready for it? Because I feel like you always see that in rom-coms. You know, this relationship's about to get serious. I'm going to do something really fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. There was like a lot of people that would come to me with that kind of theory about themselves too. Like, I think I do this, or I think I choose to date people that are not right for me because I've met people that I think are, and I can't push play. One person was like, well, I know the person I want to be with. She does XYZ. She's got like real goals and hobbies, and like self-improvement is like at the forefront. But right now I just want to like drink wine on the rooftop and watch Game of Thrones with somebody. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Like you can do all of those things. Yeah. But it's just kind of funny how like they're so different. And they're like, this is the aspirational version that I'm working towards, but like I know I'm not there yet. The way someone described it was it has to be like exact same place in your life. That's like the only way that you can function like appropriately. They knew if they would enter a relationship with someone that wanted to force them along that development path even faster, that it was going to make them even more uncomfortable too.
Because it would just bring to light how much they weren't there.
Yeah. And they also
not ready they are.
Yeah, stubborn. Like also doesn't want to be shoved. Like I want to move at my own pace to get there.
So this is so interesting because if I was the girl in this situation, like, how do you know if they're like playing the long game or they're just not that into you? Like, if someone breaks up with you, like, how would you know that?
I think you really can't know, but you have to like make bold moves. And that's like the big thing that I've said in a lot of things. You have to act like, you know, you only get the information that you're given, but you have to act like you're moving forward no matter what. Like, that's just the big thing. If you're stopping your life for someone just to wait, like, that's never going to end up well in the long term. You're going to resent the whole situation. So like, keep moving forward. And if that person eventually catches up with you or like you intersect somewhere in the future, that's fine. But like, my big thing for people was like, never stop your life.
So for the women you talked to, did you talk to women too? Or Okay.
Yeah.
So for the women that you interviewed, did they like date other people? Like they weren't waiting?
Even the one that broke up that I just mentioned like a few minutes ago, I remember her vividly because when she got that phone call out of the blue from her ex, like, it was always you were always the one. She's like, this was not a low moment for me. I was living it up. Like, I was having a great time in New York. I was in a new relationship, and she's like, I didn't take it seriously at all. She just kind of like was like, okay, like, and kept up, and he like kept up with her. What she described was like, it was like quarterly emails. Like, he'd check in with me like every few months to see like,
but not too much because you're still not ready, but you don't want to become not on top of mind.
And
either.
she never met up with him until after she broke up with the person. And she's like, it really didn't spur my breakup at all. But she said after I did break up, it was just like that, doing a lot of reflecting on your life and thinking like, this person like made me better when I was with him. Like, I always felt like I was more uplifted, like he was happier, like we balanced each other well. Like, I liked what we were together, and I have to see if it's still there. Like, eventually that curiosity for her went out, but like, he had to put in the pursuing effort afterwards because it no longer was easy, and it could have gone the wrong way. Like, she was not immediately jumping at that. It took like another year, I think, for them to actually like have a real conversation about it. So,
not to be super basic about this, but this would never work the other way around. If a girl came back into his ex-boyfriend's life and was like, you were always the one, I've been thinking about you, he'd be like, you're a fucking psycho.
I don't know. I feel like it totally could happen too. It depends if the girl broke up with him and like he was devastated about it and she came back to him. I can see it
hovered
happening.
around while he had a girlfriend.
But not hovered. I think the every quarterly check-in is like probably like a text here and there. How are you doing?
Yeah, like,
it's not
an email,
like
you know, oh, I'm gonna be in town for business. You want to get a coffee? Like, or it would be like, happy birthday. Like, there was some reason to check in every time. And I don't really know. I think that sometimes you do hear about story reversals, and I've heard every nature of that story. It's like, there are some times that roles are reversed, but I think you're right in that it is more familiar for like guys to break up and come back. I think women are more forgiving overall.
And I think also, like we talked about earlier, women are hardwired different from the start. So if they met that great person, majority, again, there's always like edge cases, they may have just stayed with it and multitasked.
Yeah. I think for a lot of times with breakups, I think for men it's ego. And sometimes it's just like, I'll break up, this person dropped me, and now she thinks she's like ready. I think like the ego driven version of that is just like, I wouldn't want, like, I think a lot of men would be like less receptive to it for that reason. I find that one of my favorite quotes from my book was someone who's like, oh yeah, whole chapters could be written on just the male ego alone. Like, you know, and how that impacts our decision making.
But what about books like She's Just Not That Into You and stuff, or He's Just Not That Into You, and like those ones that like have taught women that like to your point earlier, like if he was that into you, he would do anything for you. Like, does women's ego come into it?
It's time for a break so we can talk about your summer vacation. For me, the best part about vacation planning is getting new outfits. And now we can all start our summers off right with breezy tops and cute swimsuits from ModCloth. I just got the cutest one-piece swimsuit called the Sienna, which has yellow stripes and a cute midriff cutout. At ModCloth, they believe fashion should celebrate all women, with their size range from 00 to 28. Their team of mod stylists can hook you up with complimentary sizing and styling help. For Dateable listeners only, you get 15% off your purchase of $100 or more. Just go to modcloth.com and enter the code DATEABLE at checkout. This offer is valid for one-time use only and expires on October 5th, 2019. Again, go to modcloth.com and enter the code DATEABLE for 15% off your purchase of $100 or more. Now, back to the show.
Does women's ego come into it?
I think women have an ego, but I think we're more forgiving overall. Yeah. We're able to like empathize and like
and
really with
go.
anyone. Yeah. Well, like, you know what? I'm not going to like let this like hold my happiness back. Like ego would come first. I think.
You know what's really funny about this is that one, women are better at letting things go. But two, I've never heard of a girl say, I met this guy. He's definitely the one. I'm not letting this one go. He's definitely the one. And years later still feel the same way. I feel like women are also just better at just letting go of that idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, that's it.
Right.
Because we have that idea in the beginning and then we like talk it over and over and we get over it, right? But I think men, because their lack of communication and talking about it, they like hold on to an idea for a really long time.
Yeah. And sometimes it is like, I do see women have to be like nurtured over time. Our feelings about a relationship and how it ebbs and flows. Like if we're unhappy, like, you know, I think women execute like 2/3 of breakups, like actually, if you look at statistical numbers. And I think a lot of those come later on from those romantic relationships. They're not early starters that never got off the ground. These are like long-term relationships.
Yeah.
And part of it is because like if we're not feeling nurtured, like we're over it. But like men, once they're like in, it's like hard commit. That's what I found. It's like once they're really in, like they've made that choice, like they're in. But they're very static in the way they think about it after that. It is like a fixed long-term relationship. But women are like, you gotta keep wooing me.
I feel like women are like more open to the initial getting it off the ground.
Yeah.
It's harder to get the guy to get off the ground, but I totally agree with you. Like once they're in, usually it is the woman that I think it's like more divorces are initiated by women.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. The long-term relationships, I think women are the ones to walk away more frequently. And that is because like we expect our emotions to be consistently nurtured, and if we're not being treated well, or like we don't perceive that the love is there in the same way, then we're more like, okay, this is dying. Like where I think men commit harder to that, and I think a part of it is
or
an idea.
have less emotional needs as it goes on.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Just get more complacent with it.
Yeah, and I think women are more aware in that way.
Huh? How do you explain this scenario? I'm sorry to go off on a tangent. The good luck Chuck effect. You've heard this story before. So someone's always in long-term relationships with people, and then they break up, and then the guy ends up marrying the very next girl he dates. And it's a pattern. What would you say to women who are constantly the good luck, I don't know, what was Cheryl? Good luck Cheryls?
Coining the new term.
That's so interesting. It's very interesting because I heard a lot less of those stories in like the modern world. I didn't hear that as much. And I think it's because people are like less willing to settle. But I do think that there is like a component of some of those relationships being sometimes like the timing really is wrong. And like they just caught like the edge of that. And I think like sometimes women also want to like nurture men through these times, and then they end up dropping them because they're still not ready. Yeah, but they got like a lot of what they needed out of their relationship, and so they come out better, like the men do, but like women kind of get leached in that way too.
I could see
so
that.
I think it's like it's being aware of like making sure you're getting things out of it, and not like just picking investment pieces that aren't making you better, but that you're gonna like, I'm gonna make this potential into something great.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't mean necessarily that he's gonna stay.
Right.
It just doesn't mean that. You got to
Fluff
make
him up for the next person.
Yeah. If you're consistently that person and you're funneling all that emotional energy in, then you really have to see like, does this person make me better? Because a lot of the times it doesn't. They're waiting for the payoff, but there's no promise or guarantee that that's going to be you, especially if there's a big timing barrier.
So I guess if you're the woman in this situation, you meet this guy and he's great and all that, and then he isn't ready. What do you do?
Yeah, it's really...
What are your options?
Yeah. Move on. Yeah, my like gut personal reaction is just like, well, move on. Like if it be done with it.
Yeah,
but
when you're not in the situation.
Yeah, but from my like journalist, like investigator hat, I really wanted to explore like what are the options when someone is like being non-committal? Like what have women done and what has worked? Like I really wanted to see like what are the actual options in this day and age when commitment can feel really scarce. Some women did like stick it out. And I think like there were a lot of men that would act like boyfriends, but they like wouldn't label it. And that was something that like, I guess I didn't really have a concept of like that happening. What if someone is like everything you want, but they're like refusing to acknowledge the relationship or something like that?
It's a new trend.
Yeah, it's like a real new trend. I didn't think that men would put in that kind of effort and then like not actually be doing anything about it. It was so funny.
Did you find them doing it? Were they like trying to keep options open still? Or was it because they felt like putting the label would make them ready for something they weren't ready for?
I think putting the label like automatically made it serious. And they had the concept that like they couldn't have a serious relationship relationship until certain things were in place. There was one guy I remember in particular who was like, he was like a startup guy and like building companies, which you would find a lot of people here. And he was very convinced that until he had like a certain level of funding and enough going on that like he could not have a girlfriend.
So even if he was spending every night with her doing all boyfriend-esque things because it didn't have a label, it wasn't serious yet.
No, it wasn't like for him, it wasn't serious. And it was kind of stupid because he went from like, I won't label it to let's label it. And then like literally like move to Turkey and marry me. Wow. So it was like a very weird thing. I think that those situations are higher risk in terms of like. So she
stuck it out.
Yeah, she stuck it out and for 2 years, but she was like very convinced that like he wasn't dating anybody else. He was spending all his spare time with her. Like all of it was like, had all the markings of a serious relationship. He just had this problem with the label and he had to get over that in like his own time. And it's funny too, because I have like a friend that's now married to someone that was really similar to that too. And I see a lot of her stories in that story. He was just very not sure that he wanted to be like that serious. And he really like hemmed and hawed about it. And she's like, nah, I don't really want to date anyone else. He's like doing all the things I would want someone who I'm dating to do. So I'm going to wait. And everyone was like, you're crazy. Like throw in the towel, like be done with it. He's not going to do what you want. And like, that's what you'll hear from a lot of people. Very counter to traditional wisdom. Right. Like you need to walk away. So I think for a certain type of relationship and a certain type of woman, if you can deal with the ambiguity, not all women can. That's something I learned about myself and that I've learned about other people too. Some people just hate it. It makes them anxious. It makes them obsessed about the relationship. It makes them less productive and none of that's great. But if it works with your personality and it's okay and you seem to be getting more from it than you're like losing, then, you know, for some people,
what's the next option?
Another option is to definitely just like walk away and throw in the towel. You know, if you can do that and manage that, I think that it's good because you find out where you stand really quickly. I found like some people in breakups were like very triggered to assess the relationship from a different viewpoint. And some of them came back around, but like they had to have that break in time to actually see what was going on. Like you have to show somebody what life is without you and have that very stark contrast. And that for me is no contact. Like block them from your social media. I used to just block exes. Like I was like, if they really want to get in touch with me, they'll find a way.
Yeah, right.
Like just cut off their numbers, like cut off their social media profiles and go dark. Like they have to see this very distinct difference.
Because it will drive them crazy not knowing.
Doing this, though, with the mentality of not consciously trying to drive them crazy, more consciously trying to find someone ready.
Yeah, you're trying to find somebody ready.
A really good point. Don't do it out of vain, but like for your own benefit, not to elicit some sort of response from them.
Because you're moving forward. And I think that that's one of the big things. That in the breakup is the good thing to execute. And you don't have to go immediately date someone. Just like live your single life and enjoy yourself.
Just try and move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's option 3?
I think the other one is just like a very concerted effort to like start choosing. I mean, that is another one, walk away, because obviously most of these things don't pan out. Like this is the modern day commitment issues. Like it's only going to pan out once if you're looking for a long-term partner. Or maybe like twice or a few times over the course of your life. It's not going to work out every time, but like make a very concerted effort to look for men who are ready. Date with that intention. If they're showing red flags, that you're not going to like just dive at it and go like, oh, you know, he's planning on moving in a few months, but you know, maybe it'll change, or like, you know, all these things that we do in our minds.
How do you talk yourself out of waiting though? Because sometimes you do get in that mindset of this person will come around at some point. They will realize I am that end goal woman. I'm going to wait just a few more months or a few more years.
Well, I am a big believer. That people need to play out relationships to kind of like play them out enough in their head. So you need to see in your own mind that you've stayed long enough that it's not going to work. And so sometimes I think that like someone has to like wound you to within an inch of your life until you're going to be like, emotionally, I'm done. Like I've got to walk away. Like I don't have anything left to give this person. And so sometimes I think those can be the best lessons. And so if people are very dead set on waiting, sometimes I'm just like, and people ask me all the time and I'm like, do it. Do what you need to do.
If you're that dead set on it, like if you're like trying to, you know, like we were just talking about like play the game of going dark and moving forward or dating around, like you're doing that, but your mind isn't doing that. So it's doesn't really help you
Right.
if that's the case.
Yeah. And if you're still like very attached to somebody else mentally and like that's, if it's going to be counterproductive anyway, then
it's not fair for anybody either.
There's no reason to do it. And I think some people do really need to get to that point. I remember like really my second ever boyfriend, like I've had 3 like significant relationships, but my second one was definitely that situation where he was just like, he had to wound me to within an inch of my emotional life. So I was like, all right, I have seen that this is forever dead. And like, I was able to move on very effectively after that, but I really did have to do that on my own. And so barring like friends who are in like abusive situations, of course, you should always try to like encourage them to leave. But if it's not that and they're just waiting around for somebody to change, sometimes they have to do it.
Let's hold that thought for a sec. We'll get right back to it.
This episode is sponsored by Viia. We all know there are things that can help set the mood in the bedroom, but did you know a little THC could also do that? Yes, Viia has developed a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a low dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy called High Love. This gummy, wow, it will awaken your senses, increase blood flow, and intensify any sexual experience. I've been pleasantly surprised by the High Love gummies because it is just the right amount of THC for me to have a good time without feeling sleepy. And hey, if THC is not your thing, Viia also offers a wide array of other gummies without it. And everything legally ships in 50 states with discreet packaging directly to your door. So if you're over 21, you can get 15% off and a free pack of award-winning Dreams THC plus CBN sleep gummies with our exclusive code DATEABLE at viiahemp.com. That's VIIAHEMP.com. Let the gummies work their magic. Head to viiahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off and one free sample of their Sleepy Dream gummies. That's viiahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with High Love from Viia Hemp. This episode is made possible by Badlands Pets. As you all know, Mojo, my precious baby, is the reason why I found love in the first place. He made me feel love again. So I would do anything to ensure his health and longevity. And actress Katherine Heigl and I have that in common. She's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to improve any dog's health, and that's their food. So fortunately, she found that just by adding a few special superfoods to her dog's food, she saw huge transformations in their health. So she's made a 20-minute video explaining step by step how anyone can do the same thing to see incredible changes in their dog's health. I've definitely re-looked at what I'm feeding Mojo and making sure that, hey, he only has one life to live, and I want to make sure it's the best damn life. So if you want to keep your dog healthy and happy, go to badlandsfood.com/dateable and watch Catherine's video right now. Again, that's badlandsfood.com/dateable. This episode is made possible by Armoire. Armoire makes getting dressed easy. With a clothing rental membership from Armoire, build the perfect wardrobe with brands that are high quality, unique, and recommended just for you. All you have to do is take a 5-minute style quiz and select items from your dynamic, personalized closet. The styles show up at your door in as little as 2 days. Then when you're ready for new clothes, just swap them out. Listen, I live in Southern California. There is absolutely no need for puffer coats or any sort of those winter jackets. But when I travel anywhere else in the world in these cold months, I'm often burdened with the task of getting winter clothes. And now with Armoire, I can just rent my winter wardrobe. It's brilliant. Right now, our listeners can give Armoire a try and get up to 50% off their first month. That's up to $125 off. Just visit armoire.style/dateable. That is armoire.style, spelled ARMOIRE.style/DATEABLE to get up to 50% off your first month and never worry about what to wear again. Try Armoire today.
Right.
You know what the problem with waiting is that for some reason, they always know.
Yes.
They always know.
Yeah.
I remember my gold standard in New York, the guy I was so into. After we broke up, I was waiting and I was just starting to get over him, right? It's probably like a month and a half out. I'm just getting back into the dating scene and he likes a photo on Facebook. It's like
they always come back.
They always come back.
Especially when there's another guy in the picture.
They
it's like
just
a sixth
know,
sense.
just when you're about to let go of that hope, that last glimmer of hope, they come back and like your Facebook photo. Now they probably wouldn't. They just do Instagram or
Yeah.
something. But, you know,
no one's on Facebook.
Nobody's on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
It's just so outdated. But it's just so crazy. That's the danger of waiting, is that they could come back. And when they do make these very tiny, effortless gestures, it throws your whole world upside down again.
Right.
And that's why I'm a big proponent of just like delete people from your social media.
Yeah,
Like get them out of your head. I know it's so hard because it's like you're definitely killing it, and you're like, I won't even be able to stalk them anymore. What am I going to do with my free time? You know. But you really should do
move
it
on.
just to move on. Yeah, it is the big thing. You need to work on moving on, and part of it is cutting all the ties.
Have you found anyone try to like stay friends or like do like the bare minimum to like keep it going?
Men or women?
Women to like keep the guy top of mind.
I mean, I think I have. I mean, I've definitely seen it. And I mean, I wouldn't recommend that strategy because I think you're completely still invested in it. And like the guy is just like, oh, great. Like she took a step back. This is awesome. Like I still get to keep her around.
Exactly. The door's still open.
Yeah. So I think that's like the worst strategy. Like, and it's the one that I would not recommend for people to do.
Whenever someone says, I just don't want to lose him as a friend, I'm like,
yeah, you'll be fine.
Like, not friends.
Yeah.
I think some time needs to have pass for sure.
Yeah.
You've got to resolve it on your own. And until you do, and you're like fully on the other side, that's
and also there's
sure.
something about like checking in once in a while versus like talking every day like you were in a relationship. That's very different too.
It's super different.
Do you think the love gap applies to the reverse? Women who are not so much ready to pursue their end goal man.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely like because of the way that we're socialized, it's something that we see more in men, but I do think some women have the same problems. And that's something that I've definitely realized. And I like even kind of noted that in the conclusion. I'm like, sometimes you won't be ready like of the book. And like sometimes you could totally miss somebody that's right for you too. And even I look back at my dating life and, you know, I met somebody while I was writing my book actually.
Oh, really?
I mean, oh yeah, exactly. Because I made a concerted effort. I was like, I'm not going to date while I'm doing this because it's something that felt, you know, I had been single for a while and it was something that felt like for me, I didn't want my story to taint everyone else's in any way, shape, or form. I wanted to be completely clear-headed and single. But of course, the time that you're telling everyone I'm not dating during this time, then somebody will pop up into the picture because that's just how life works. But I found that person. But I mean, I tried to shut him out in every possible way. I was not ready at all. But
so is that your now boyfriend? Or?
No, actually, no, not at all. I think at that time, like it had been totally dead and like not able to resurrect at that time. But it was just funny because it was somebody that I totally would have dated otherwise. But I was so convinced that like, I mean, I was not open at all. I was so much so like I was dead set that this is the attitude I need to take into writing this book. And I did it. And that was what happened. So I wanted women to at least be aware that you could be in that situation too. It's more situational. And I think it's something that's like probably for shorter periods of time in your life, maybe that you'll go through things like that. But, and where maybe it's like a longer stay for men.
How did you meet your boyfriend, your now boyfriend?
Through friends of friends. It's interesting though, but we had like a really long timeline to commitment too. Like it's from the time I met him, like it would have been 2015 and we didn't actually date until the end of 2017. So it was like a really long time. And then even we had that like bumpy break because I've been in Ann Arbor, he's in Bay Area, and we broke up for 5 months because it was like, I don't know where this is going. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I think it's best to split ways. And
so
I think
how did you guys get back together?
Yeah. So we kind of made independent decisions, and who really knows how it's all going to play out in the end. I mean, I'm hopeful for the best, but it was like one of those weird things where I didn't know. I felt like we were kind of unfinished, but he actually, like he was working at a different company when we were together that was like very focused in the Bay Area, but now he's at a company that like is actually has like a main office in Michigan. So he's actually going to move back to Michigan. And I was actually like really focusing a lot of my time out here in the Bay Area. So we just intersected and our like paths kind of got back on the same path. And I was like very much like, I want to find a way to make it work. And he was very much like, I super can't. Like right now, like work is like too crazy. And that was so funny that my story was like very similar to people in my book. Like it was very bizarre, but I think it almost equipped me to like deal with it. And I did break up with him in the sense that I'm like, well, maybe we won't back together. But it was like, I got to do this for me.
Got
like,
it. So you reached out
it.
because you were like, I feel like I need to just like say this to him and like get the ball rolling again. Or
when this happened, like he's super reserved and like not super emotionally in tune. So I was like, I'm going to have to do it. But he's he's just like really receptive. He's like one of those people that like once he knows it's okay, like he'll be totally fine taking initiative. But like I think he thought that he had like hurt me. I think it seems that way. I'm pretty emotional like when like I get invested, but I like bounce back pretty well because I'm able to like really learn lessons from it and I like, rationalize it all and I'm all the growth. So I definitely pretty well in terms of bouncing back from it. And I was like, well, you know, our paths have suddenly merged. So they're on like the same direction. So it didn't make sense anymore. The reason we broke up was no longer valid.
So interesting that you were living proof of your whole book.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
To this whole like waiting situation, because I think this is awesome that we've heard all these success stories, right? I had a friend that dated this guy for like 8 years on and off. And we were all like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. Now they're married with kids. Like they are like fully committed.
Yeah.
But in theory, like she could have ended up wasting a lot of her time by sticking around. Like how do you like move forward in life, but also like maintain that hope if you really in your gut and core know that this is your person?
Yeah, it's really challenging. And that's something that I tell people a lot is like you have to weigh like how strongly you feel about this particular relationship against like, you know, the risk involved. Because there is risk. Like we have finite amount of time on this earth. So, you know, if you're not actually investing in people that are on the same page as you and that's like what you want a long-term committed partnership and you're not moving in that direction, then it is totally a risk. At least when I dealt with it and like with my boyfriend in particular, I can even speak from personal experience. Like I felt like we were unfinished, but there was something about me that was able to operate with the idea that if like I found out a lot of hokey sayings can be true. If it's meant to be, it will be, but not in the conventional sense that like, you know, he'll conquer everything to like come find you. That's not it. But like
break down your doors if you don't answer your phone.
If it's meant to be, you two will like find a way to get back on the same page, in the same path. And you won't have to do like a ton of work to get there. Like your paths will like realign. And I think it's sometimes good to have space from each other to actually be able to appreciate what you have. Because I don't think that would have worked out any other way for me and a lot of the people that I talked to. Even one of my favorite couples, the one that broke up for 5 years and then got back together and got married, they were the ones where she's like, I don't regret the breakup. Like she's like, that time was so valuable for me in terms of like dating around, knowing what else was out there, like building my life, starting my career. And she's like, all that gave me so much perspective that when I did get back together with this person, that I actually knew like, this is what I want. I'm reapproaching it in a second time, that it like, it's worth it to me. But she was very open during that time. And I think that it's never going to be great if you're not in the position where you can actually realize that like, I will be okay on my own and I don't need this person. Like you have to remember that like, you don't need this person. You can have a happy life without them. And one person that I interviewed summed it up really well when she told her now husband, she's like, I know that I will be happy without you. I'll just be happier with you.
Aww.
Like, so it worked out.
That's a great quote.
So this is a really good segue to takeaways.
Yes. I actually have something to say about your story, Julie, with your friend of 8 years.
Yeah.
You could also argue that she could have gotten into a really bad marriage for 8 years and that would have been in a divorce. Isn't that kind of the same thing? Like that could have been a waste of 8 years too.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like,
never know.
The takeaway here is that you have to go through these journeys to get to the end goal, whatever that may be. There are no shortcuts. We're constantly looking for ways to hack dating and relationships. And so we tend to avoid relationships, right? Because we're like, this person isn't the end all be all. So I might just say no to this commitment for now. And then maybe like when I'm ready, I will be with the right person. I actually would encourage people to get into more relationships. One, that's how you learn. And two is that's how you know where you're going.
Right.
If you're trying to like so hard to avoid these situations, then you're never going to know when you're ready for that end goal woman or end goal man.
It could shed to light like how much this person is or isn't your end goal, this other person that you've had in your mind.
Right.
Like you get into a new relationship, be like, wow, this is actually so much a better fit. Or you could be like, wow, this actually sheds light on like how much this was the right person.
Yeah. So we got to just do the work. Let's just be open to it and get into these relationships. If you enjoy spending time with someone, then spend more time with them. See what that feels like and see where it develops. No need for labels. I'm totally in with this like millennial. I'm woke. I'm woke. No need for labels. No need for like defining this shit, that shit. It's more like, what are we most comfortable doing in our relationship? This is what I feel most comfortable doing. Let's discuss it. Let's move forward with it. If it doesn't work out at some point, it doesn't work out.
Yep. I think my biggest takeaway is just like having faith that things will work out the way they're meant to be, and then also not forcing the situation.
Right.
It sounds like all of the like success stories that you kind of noted, none of the women were like trying to force someone down a path. Even if they stayed around, they accepted the situation for what it was and decided consciously like, okay, I'm going to wait because I know this is the person. And then the situations where someone came back into their life later, they weren't again sitting at their house waiting every night by their phone, waiting for that person to text. They were living their lives.
Yep.
So I think at the end of the day, like if you do meet someone at the wrong time, move forward in whatever way feels right to you.
Right.
And just have faith that things will work out the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Which is so much easier said than done. But
yeah, it is. You have to keep pushing yourself though to just like really question the behaviors that you're doing and make sure you're moving forward. Like you'll feel it if you stop.
Totally.
And like that's a big thing to be aware of. If I'm stagnating, then things are not going well.
So my girlfriend is dating this guy. He's a founder and his company is like really taking off. He's really busy, but he also wants her in his life. So they are exclusive with each other. They see each other regularly. They have boyfriend, girlfriend sort of dates. And he's recently asked her to move in with him, but he doesn't want the label. And this is what he said to her. I don't want the label because I don't feel like I deserve that label of boyfriend yet. I'm still working my way up to that label.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting because he's like, I'm not dating other people. It's not that. It's just that I think the boyfriend label puts me in a different category. And I still have a lot of personal growth to get there.
I mean, I've had this personal experience. I think men do have this feeling like I need to like be the best person I can for you when they do meet that girl.
Yeah.
And if they know like deep down they aren't there yet or like they're preoccupied with something else, like they will kind of like take that step back, or whether it's totally disappearing, breaking it off, or just like not putting a label on it.
Yeah. There's like some barrier to like full-fledged commitment. And I do think men are really idealistic in some ways more than women. I think women are a little more pragmatic about how they approach things, but like men are super idealistic. And that's something that I realized very early, that they do like put like a really heavy emphasis on like relationships and like what level of relationship and if it's labeled relationship and boyfriends and the terms mean more. They put so much more weight into it where women are like, hey, I just want to know you're going to show up tomorrow. Like, that's it. Like, that's all this means to me.
I just need a plus one. All right.
That's all.
But I think that's another takeaway though, is like, I personally would rather someone be all in than like not in at all or half out.
True.
Like, so I think it comes back to this like being ready. I think we need to like ditch this like old, like he's just not that into you mentality. If we are in this situation ourselves or have friends in it, like understand that everyone's kind of on their own path and like it may or may not have anything to do with the other person.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, I mean, this is what I'm taking away from your book, which is I think we're so focused on the other person. Instead of thinking about your end goal woman or end goal man, think about the end goal you. Who do you ultimately want to be in a relationship? And when your relationships don't work out, don't think about what you're lacking. Think about what it is you want to develop more of. And not for the person you're trying to win back, but for yourself. We can always chalk it up to timing. Timing is everything. We can say that forever, but what's that really going to do for us? Nothing.
Right.
We can't control where the universe takes it.
Right.
No.
So the only thing you can control is how you develop yourself.
Right.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Should we do a quick
question of the day? Question of the day.
This question of the day comes from Jamie. I met this wonderful guy and we've been dating for about 3 months. He recently lost his work visa and broke up with me saying he couldn't take our relationship to the next level as it wasn't fair to me with so much uncertainty and it would make leaving even harder if we were further involved. He still has 2 more months in the States. Is it worth suggesting we do a casual relationship and continue to enjoy each other's company? Will he see me as someone short term if I do this, and will it ruin our chances of getting back together long term if he does come back?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Jenna, take it away.
Yeah. So for me, I think that in terms of suggesting a casual relationship, I probably wouldn't pose it that way, I guess, as a casual relationship, but more just like, I want to enjoy the time that we have left here while you're still here. It doesn't make sense that you're here and that we're not seeing each other when we have these strong feelings for each other. If you are totally okay, like you can really deal with the fact that this might not go your way. Like Like at the end of the day, he might still leave, and you're going to have to realize that you put 2 more months and you got 2 more months down the road in those feelings. If you are really okay to cope with that consequence, then go for it. I say like, if that's a risk that feels worth it to you, then like, of course. And I think that that's something that I would tell you to go for it if that feels right. But I think that if you know, and I think the women know if they're that type of person that's going to get like super emotionally attached and they're just going to like shut down, not be productive at work, stop seeing friends. If that's going to be you, then like, I think it's probably best that like he is thinking about this very logically, that like that is going to be a really challenging barrier to overcome if like, you know, an overseas relationship sounds really intense. But yeah, I would say like think about how you are as a person and how you're strung up and really be real with yourself if that's a risk that's really worth it for you. Not about him and like, you know, what's going on there. Like, is this really good for me? Like,
point, yeah. I think also like what you really want. Is it this person? Like, are they so the person for you? Or do you want a relationship that's long term? Because it sounds like this might not actually go there if someone physically won't be here and has to leave the country. The other way, you feel like you had just such an undeniable connection, maybe 2 more months would put things in a different place.
Yeah.
But you're still gonna have to do a long distance relationship.
Yeah, you have to like know what you're signing up for in terms of like the whole package. Like it could be really high risk and you might not even like the distance the way that you think you do. It's just like super early in those heady emotions where you're very like consumed with somebody that's still super early on in that way. So it's like just being really real with yourself about the reality of the situation and whether or not that's worth the risk.
How I feel right before I get on a roller coaster. Am I ready to face this? I'm going to feel good at the end when it's over, but during it, I'm going to be scared as hell.
Yeah.
Do I want to go through these emotions? Or I can just bow out, go get some cotton candy and be happy with that too.
Yeah.
I may not feel as thrilled or accomplished at the end, but I'm still baseline happy.
Yeah.
I don't know, your analogy, I'm thinking the opposite of like one of those like drops that you like while you're on it, you're like, this is great. And at the end, you're like, fuck, this person's now gone. And then it like all comes to you. But I guess it depends how you process it.
How you process it.
Which ride you're on in that amusement park.
Yeah, choose your ride and then whether you want to get on it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Jenna, for being on our show, talking about the love gap, talking about this whole idea of timing. I think we finally figured out what that has to do with dating, which is basically you have no control over it.
None.
It'll work out if it's meant to work out.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's your mindset that you have control over. And we're also booking guests for upcoming seasons. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, just reach out to us, dateablepodcast.com. Okay, we're going to wrap this up.
Stay dateable.
Your action item for this week is to identify areas in your life where you may be forcing something to happen. Some of us have imposed timelines or outcomes. Once you identify these areas, see where you can just let go a little bit. Let it play out without pushing it for an outcome. Want to continue the conversation? First, tag us in any post with hashtag StayDateable. Then head on over to our website, dateablepodcast.com. There you'll find all the episodes as well as articles, videos, and our coaching services with vetted industry experts. You can also find our premium Why series, where we dissect, analyze, and offer solutions to some of the most common dating conundrums. To connect with us, find Dateable Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're also downloadable on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast platforms. Your feedback is valuable to us, so don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes. And most importantly, remember to stay dateable.